Good evening, Counselor Bukema. Can you confirm that you're able to hear us? My apologies, Counselor Buckham. I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I sure can. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Do I have to take this picture down? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Time to rock and roll for this council meeting. It's 6:30. I'm going to call it to order. The town of Smithers would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Gitumden. Almost forgot about that. The town of Smithers acknowledges the Gitumden clan and the Wet'suwet'en people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. The public is notified that the meeting is being recorded and webcast, and a notice of that is on the bulletin board outside these chambers. Council, we have an agenda with no supplemental. Motion to approve, please. Councillor Raven, Councillor Leonard. Oh, actually, I forgot something. If council is all right with it, should have done this with Mr. Schroeder, but we're just going to change the order of the bylaws. And if you can bear with, the reason for this is that we have a fees and charges bylaw, and then we have a report on the water, including a reference to fees and charges. And it was just brought forward that maybe we want to do the water one in case there's comment from council on the fees and charges. Do that first, and then we'd not be going backward on the fees and charges, if that made sense. So if you're okay with it, you can start. 16.8 becomes 16.6. 16.6 becomes 16.7. 16.7 becomes 16.8. You good with that, Mr. Schroeder? Okay. So it just provides room for the conversation without having to backtrack. With that change, if council is agreeable, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Or no, we did that already. Councillor Raven, Councillor Patterson, Mr. Schroeder. I'm good. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's the agenda. Okay, so first up, we have a delegation. Chatted with the folks in the gallery. So the main presenter is not here. So if council is willing, we've just got a note that the main delegation is just a bit late. If council is willing, we'll move forward with the agenda and hear from the delegation when she arrives. Okay, alrighty. So then we have the public comment period. And just a notes up, this is confusing for the folks in the gallery. So this is if you want to speak to any item on the agenda that is not the delegation, because the delegation's coming, but I have to call it. So if anyone wants to speak to an item on the agenda, this is your moment. Okay. I'm going to go past that. And next up then is public hearing for bylaw 1970. And I'll just read the statement as I must. So this public opportunity is convened in accordance with the community charter to allow the public to make representations to council regarding bylaw number 1970, the town of Smithers business license bylaw number 1850, amendment number 24-01. The purpose of bylaw 1970 is to remove mobile vendor and mobile restaurant sections as they are part of the new mobile vending bylaw. Those present who believe that your interests are affected by the proposed bylaw are provided this opportunity to be heard. Comments are now welcome. When speaking, please start with your name and address, and council will consider the proposed bylaw under section 16 of this evening's council agenda. And I'm going to move on. Sometimes these things are just awkward. Okay, we are up to the minutes section. So section 8, first item 8.1, and the minutes, the regular minutes from January 28th. A motion to approve, please. Councillor Raven, Councillor Leonard. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Buckham, sorry, I should have said, I'm seeing your reactions. They look pretty close to real time. So if we start developing a real lag, I'll let you know and we can go to the thumbs up, thumbs down. But right now things seem to be working. Okay. So 8.2, Committee of the Whole from January 21st for approval, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Elliott. Any errors, omissions? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, we don't have any items to be released. Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Ray.
Just that those minutes contain 2 motions.
Oh. Well, I've just skipped by those, haven't I? Okay, let me find them. Unless someone's got them. Okay, I have then on page 5 of 11 or 33 of 269. The motion that it was moved by Councilor Ray that the committee of the whole recommended council that council designate the basement of Ranger Park building as training, storage, and operational space for both the emergency support and services regional operations, and that council designate the second floor of Ranger Park building for use as the EOC. Councilor Ray, moving, is there a seconder? Councilor Raven, discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. And then on page of 711 or 35 of 269. A motion by Councillor Patterson that the committee of the whole recommended council to direct staff to provide a report to council with more information regarding the Edge Learning Center's delegation request. Councillor Patterson, you're moving. Okay, and is there a seconder? I'm going to catch myself up here for a second then. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm there. So we have a mover. Is there a seconder? Councilor Raven seconds. Discussion? Councilor Ray.
I kind of mentioned this, and as you can see, it was unanimous, but I'm going to vote against it this time. I don't need the answers to those questions, but if others do, that's okay.
Thanks, Councilor Ray. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else. I'm going to call the vote. Excuse me, all in favor? And opposed? Just clarifying, Councilor Bucama, was that a vote in favor or opposed?
In favor.
All right, thank you. The motion carries with Councilor Ray opposed. Okay, now I think I'm up to 9. I'm going to do a couple of these quick ones, and then we'll just give sort of notice to the delegation. Like, we'll give you a couple of minutes, and then we're going to call you out. I see you. Okay, so we've got nothing behind number 9 or 10. And before we go to council reports, then we'll just go back to the delegation. Ms. Brooks, come on up. I think you've done this before, but just in case, have a seat there. Nice to see you. And on the mic stand in front of you, there's the circle. And when you press the button, the mic goes red, and that means it's live. Okay, and I don't know if you had materials or overhead, not overhead, that dates me, PowerPoint or anything like that, or just what was submitted? Okay, then just for our purposes, if you don't mind just introducing yourself, and we've got about 10 minutes. Okay, welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor. And thank you all for having me tonight. My name is Sue Brooks, and I've been in the Valley for 25 years now, roughly. I'm of European descent, and I came from Ontario, like a lot of you, maybe. When I first moved here, I bought a little business, and we came for the music and the culture of the Valley. And we've since sold the business and been self-employed and entrepreneurs ever since. And I'm a little nervous, so sorry. Tonight I'm here on behalf of the Bulkley Valley Lakes District Airshed Management Society. And we have what's called a clean air plan in the Valley. And I just wondered if I could get a show of hands, how many people know about this plan? Yeah, a few of you. It was first written up in year 2000, roughly, and then it was edited again in 2012. And some of the original writers are in the room. And I'd like to thank these two here there with me. We have Dave Duncan and Sybil Hostler. That plan is basically an air quality management strategy. So it's basically a plan that has goals and indicators and strategies for mitigating the negative effects of poor air. And there's something like 60 strategies identified in that plan. And it's written out by source of emissions. So we have essentially, if you look at what I've submitted, did everybody get a copy of that? I have a hard copy here. Yeah, basically we have 4 sources of emissions at that time. So there was open burning, we have industrial or stack emissions, wood burning appliance emissions, and then road dust. Those are sort of identified as our major issues back in 2012. And the issue with air quality we mostly monitor is particulate, which is the particle density in the air. And particulate is a result of a lot of these activities. So as you can see in 2016, we did a little, what we call micro emission inventory of these little particles. And we found that the majority of them come from open burning, which would include the wildfires. And then our second greatest source would be industrial emissions. And then the third source, residential wood stoves. And then the fourth would be road dust. And so we've had, we are entrusted with the overseeing of this plan and trying to keep the goals and strategies alive and actioned. So we have had all the communities in our valley sign on to the plan. And ever since 2012, we've had a member of our board appointed by councils from the Hazeltons to Burns Lake and in between. And we also have board members from the NHA and the general public and from First Nations Health. Some people come and go, and industry. So we've always had someone from Pinnacle, and lately we've had some visitors from Drax, and we've had at our board meetings, we meet quarterly. It's a volunteer board. We're a nonprofit registered society, and we have presentations from stakeholders, everyone that originally signed off on the plan. So I just wanted to tell you about the plan so you know about it. And what we want to do is keep the plan alive and active and keep it our plan. So we wanted to start to look critically at our goals and indicators and whether or not they're still relevant today. Because considering climate change and fire weather and all these other things, we're not sure that our emission sources are still those 4. And if we should be measuring and monitoring and coordinating somewhat more collectively. So that sort of leads me to the second part of the reason I'm here. So the first part is to answer questions about the Clean Air Plan. Did anyone have any questions so far?
Council, are there questions for Sue so far? Okay, I think we're good so far, Sue. Thank you.
Yeah. So the second part of my request tonight is a request for $1,500 to keep implementing the goals of the plan. So some of the achievements that we've had in keeping with our goals are the running of the wood stove exchange program. That's been going on for almost 20 years too. And in the town of Smithers, we've had a total of about 190 wood stove exchanges over the years. Lately, it's trickled down to like 1 a year in the past like 5 years. But we haven't put a lot of money into promoting it actively lately. So we're just kind of resting on the knowledge of dealers and installers and home inspectors promoting the wood stove exchange. And generally, it's the idea with that program is to incent someone with a rebate, a cash rebate, to change out dusty wood burning stoves for something newer, more efficient and cleaner. So that's one of our programs. Another program we do is a community network monitoring system or monitoring group. We have these purple air sensors, and we've been partners with the town in the past, putting up these purple air sensors where the town's bought some, we've bought some, we've had health authorities buy some, the Ministry of Environment's bought some, and we're keeping them alive and well and reporting on their numbers. These things feed the weather underground too. So the data from those monitors are uploaded to like windy.com, and any other website that you're using for your air quality readings is probably reading off of those monitors or sensors. So we've been sort of keeping that project alive. We do a lot of outreach and just we cold call people about air quality issues, and we have people contact us about air quality issues. So as an example, in the summer this year, we had the soccer fields being cleaned, or something happened with soccer fields. And at one point in the middle of the afternoon, the particulate level went really high for a few hours. So that drove in a lot of phone calls to us, like what was happening. And we could see with the monitors how far and wide that dust spread, and then where it kind of settled down, and how long it took to affect certain neighborhoods basically in town. So we just basically tell people about air quality, educate them, let them know what they can do to improve their own air quality or how to reduce the impact on others. And we offer resources in the way of sensors or homemade air quality filters, air filters. Workshops we have online and in our library. We have various resources that we lend and share. We have a sensor at the library in all of our communities in the airshed, so people can take one home. So those are kind of like the highlights of what we do. And there's more in the handout. The one page, the page 3 in the handout basically was sort of like an organizational chart showing roughly how air quality management is affected by like a whole number of stakeholders, everyone from the Ministry of the Environment to yourselves, to event planners, the health authorities, and the general public. It's just like, it's a collective project where everyone has to work together in order to keep our tabs. Okay. So the money that we're asking for tonight is to help us fulfill our general goals. And so that's keep on doing what we're doing, but also review the plan, come up with some strategy on where we should go with it, and recommendations on how it could be improved, and then bring it back to the table so we could have all of our municipalities endorse the plan again going forward, and having full confidence that it's relevant today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sue. I'll just glance around the table again. I have a couple of questions, but if anyone else does. Councillor Ray.
Just one, I know you have a lot of partners. What's the total budget for, if you're asking us for 15, what's the?
Well, for the clean air plan review is what I call it, basically. We are just drafting that, but we're sitting at about $20,000. And it really depends. We can use a lot of tools like online meetings and that kind of thing. So it's mostly coordinator and facilitator fees, some travel expenses. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Anyone else? Couple of things. So you just sort of piqued my curiosity. It's been a while since we've actually had someone come here and talk to us about air quality, I think. And so it was good to hear about the monitoring program and to be reminded about the Wood Stove Exchange program. In years gone by, that spent more time at this table. And right now, what is the funding source for the Wood Stove Exchange program?
Sorry, it's Ministry of Environment funding, and it's funneled through the BC Lung Association. So this year we were approved $8,000, which essentially is for rebates only. So there's no funding for coordinating the program or advertising the program this year. There has been in the years past. So it's first come, first serve. And actually we're having a lot of uptake in Burns Lake this year. So once those funds are used for this year, then the program is pretty much spent. We've spent our money.
Okay, thank you. And when you look at the plan and you do the review on the clean air plan, just a couple of things I kind of remember in the last few years was a pretty amazing meeting at the old church a few years ago, linking air quality with heart and lung disease. I'm not sure if you remember that session at the old church. It was something that helped generate, I think, a lot of interest and probably activity around some of those things. Anyway, that's just a random thought. And I think, you know, from the town, we have been more active in the wood stove program in the past. I do recall that. And I think we get calls sometimes, Mr. Lawrence would probably field them, when we have big dust issues, when we have really dry, icy Januaries sometimes, or April sometimes. So dust seems to be probably the major contributor from the town directly. And sometimes from residents from old stoves, although I think they're less than they used to be. There was quite a bit of uptick on the wood stove exchange program a few years ago, I think, with some of the worst ones. So, I mean, I'm interested in what the update would look like. And you may know this already, but it's our practice. So we'll hear from you this evening. And then next week or next council meeting, we'll get some feedback from staff as well in response to the specific requests. But you're looking for the specific request right now is for $1,500 to review and update the clean air plan. Okay. And then probably, and maybe staff would do this anyway, but getting some details on how that might work would help staff formulate that answer. So I'll just leave that. But thanks for coming and for the work that you've done for a really long time. I appreciate that. And to the folks that came to support you, thank you as well for the work in community. These are hard things to keep alive for a really long period of time. So thank you for your dedication to it. Okay, thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Thanks for rushing in. Don't worry. Okay. And for those of you that are in the gallery, you're welcome to hang out and you're welcome to have your evening back. It is up to you, but you're more than welcome to just hang out with us all evening and listen to all the things we talk about. That's up to you. But we won't be offended should you choose to take your time back. Alrighty, council. Gonna jump up to council reports. So first up, Councillor Buikema.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, thank you. First of all, the visitor report that's in our package is just there for information. And then I also wanted to mention that I attended the Coffee and Connection event yesterday at the Chamber. And I also wanted to highlight the fact that it is Chamber Week, and the Chamber has a number of special events planned during the course of this week, including a Friday luncheon where Chamber members will have opportunity to meet with representatives of local government. And I just want to do a shout out to the Chamber as well, just for the excellent work they do in promoting local business, advocating for local business. They just do tremendous work. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Buikema. Any questions for Councillor Buikema? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just a question for you, Councillor Buikema. I know you said that the chamber report was just for information, but I just had one question. Should I ask it, or should I just wait until maybe I have a chance to actually meet with the chamber?
That's totally
Councillor
up to you.
Patterson,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm not.
I think you muted yourself, John. You're muted, I think.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You bet.
Okay. Anyway, you're welcome to ask me a question about the report, but it's not really provided to me with a whole lot of background information. It's just sent to me once a month, and I include it with my council report. So if you have a really in-depth question about the Chamber of Commerce report, you're probably better off firing an email to either Sheena or Emily at the Chamber.
Thank you very much. I'll do that. Thanks, John.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Buikema. Councillor Elliott.
Nothing to report at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leonard.
Nothing to report at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Nothing from me, Your Worship.
We have those minutes. I think we need to adopt them?
The minutes are included just for council information, but there is a single bolded motion on item for 11.4.1.
I even wrote that down. Okay. Counselor Patterson, if you've got that, I've got page 47 of 269. There's a bolded motion there. Have you got it?
Pardon me, I'll make the motion.
Okay. And just for council's benefit, it's that the Fall Fair Management Committee recommends council take immediate action to stop the snow plowing occurring outside on the lease boundaries of the Bulkley Valley Bowman Association provided by snow removal contractor. So it's on the floor. Is there a seconder? Councilor Ray seconds. Councilor Ray?
Just given that that meeting was in December, does staff have an update? Is this still happening? Has staff, I know they're waiting council direction, but just if staff has had any interaction with the contractor and it stopped?
Through the chair to Councillor Ray, yes, staff has had contact with both the Fall Fair and the contractor, and following conversation, it has concluded.
Thanks for that information. So I guess we could, there's no harm, no foul here. We can pass the motion or not, but for the record, why don't we pass it? It was the, that would be my opinion. I guess council will vote as they wishes, but it's on the floor. I'm just going to call a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, and then the next set, 14.2 was from Councillor Patterson, but there are no bolded motions, so it's just for information. Councillor Leonard.
There's just a small typo on 11.4.3. Katie Lewell is present and she's also excused.
Well, that's just amazing.
Just a
And if
little-
anyone remembers which one is correct, we can move to amend it, and otherwise we'll just leave it with staff. I don't know.
I would just leave it with staff, your worship.
right.
Thank you.
Just gonna leave that one with staff. Good catch. All righty. Anything else, Councillor Raven, or Councillor Patterson, I'm sorry. All right, Councillor Raven.
Switching names and people can be present and absent. It's fantastic here. Sorry. Sorry about that. So on January 30th, I attended the Health Committee meeting. We had guest speakers from the Men's Shed, which is an initiative that brings men together to work out meaningful projects and build camaraderie in support of mental health. You can find out more on their Facebook page and website. But they also meet at the BV Bowman. That's where they have their shed set up. On the 31st, there was the youth art exhibition opening. It's still on, and I encourage everyone to go check it out. So it's all pieces from youth within the valley, and there's many mediums and even some remakes of classics, including one of my favorites, which is the Mona Gisa. You can guess what that looks like. February 1st, I attended the local gymnastics meet. On February the 4th, there was the finance meeting. And I also attended the Chamber Week launch with Councillor Bukema and Mayor Attrell, and will be attending the event on Thursday night as well.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Councillor Ray.
Sorry, nothing to report.
Thank you. My report is there and I can take questions. The only thing I wanted to add is that this afternoon I had, is a very generous giving of time from some of the folks from the District Forest Office. I'm not able to attend the workshops coming up on the Bulkley Maurice Forest Landscape Planning. So the workshop in Smithers is in March. So I spent a bit of time there today, and I actually went back and re-listened to the presentation that we had just over a year ago. So the workshop, open house is on March 6th. I've got some stuff sitting here, and inside, just for council's benefit, In the inside panel, there's a QR code and they'll take you to a survey where we get to actually contribute what we see as our values. And so this particular planning process, and people might remember from that presentation a year ago, is a little different than some of the many other processes that have been carried out over decades. So values driven. And so there is a chance just to state your values for consideration at this point. So it's a multi-phase planning process, this landscape, forest landscape planning. And right now it's in the values and engagement, values identification and assessment, and they're in the public engagement process. So this is going to be a long process. It's meant to be a long plan, a plan with a long life. So a 10-year plan. The main participants, that's probably not the right word, would be the province, BC, and Indigenous communities. And there's cards here, and council can just take them later if you want. So it's actually fairly interesting. It's like, what is it, where is it, and who is it? So it answers things fairly simply. And I'll leave this the sort of fold as well that gives a little overview of it. You know, we've been talking at various tables about the importance of, we're talking about the forest industry, but this planning process is looking at the landscape. So what are the values that people hold on the landscape? Of course, economy is a value. We want to, well, I'll speak for me. I want to ensure that people have an opportunity to earn a living going forward, but that's not the only value. So it's a nice platform. And at some point, the magic in these planning process will be to come up with how are we going to do business on this identified landscape, and how, which will be all kinds of things, from living, the forest industry, recreation, all the things that people love to do. So this is an opportunity for we as citizens or people on council to participate at this level. And if you are able to attend the workshop, that is an opportunity as well. So I'll just leave this here, and if people are interested, they can grab it later. So thanks for your indulgence there. And if there's any other questions in my report, I'll take them. Okay, then we'll move on. Okay. 14.1, need to find it. So that is just the recommendation for the delegation, and the recommendation from staff is that we direct staff to provide a report as a follow-up to the delegation from the Bulkley Valley Lakes District Airshed Management Society's request. So if someone's willing to make that motion, Councillor Raven, Councillor Leonard, any discussion? Councillor Ray.
Just wondering if it should be referred to budget at all, also, or should we just wait for the report and then refer to the budget?
Unless there's a different perspective from staff, I think we have enough time that if, I guess if staff are intending to bring us information in the next meeting or two, then it fits within the, I don't think we have to deal with the budget right now.
I think that if we were to just refer to staff now, we can provide a brief report back to council in advance of budget meetings.
Thank you for that. Nothing quite like just tell me right now when you haven't had time to think about it. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so let's just leave it with staff, and if there's an issue, they can flag it for us and let us know if there's a problem with the timing. So it's on the, did someone move in second? Okay, ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. So barring anything different than for the folks in the gallery, it'll be on our next agenda. So a couple weeks down the road. Okay, 14.2, report from Ms. Lucier on a letter of support request from the Bulkley Backcountry Ski Society. Councillor Leonard moves, Councillor Reagan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. 14.3, report from Chief DeVries on the sort of alternate use of the truck, fire truck for, well, not the fire truck, not one of the big fire trucks, a pickup truck for search and rescue. The recommendation, Councillor Elliott moves, or seconder, Councillor Raven. Discussion or questions? Counselor Ray?
I feel like a fire truck Grinch here, but I do have a concern as to how long it's going to be for. I know the search is on, but as we've seen with some other positions, sometimes it doesn't always work the first time, and I'm concerned about loaning this out for as long as 6 months to a year. And my other, it's more of a question than a concern, is if somebody other than a fire department volunteer or paid official is driving the vehicle, is our liability the same? I don't know if that needs to go in camera, but
Okay, well, let's look to Chief DeVries for the first part.
So it definitely states that in the agreement that one of the factors would be the filling of that seat, but I hear that while we're confident that hopefully in a month or so, we're going to have someone in that seat. Like you say, things change and sometimes things are unexpected. I would say going into May, this is a unit we also use for some additional wildfire support in the summers. So I would say once we kind of get into May, I would be looking to get it back anyways, even if that seat isn't filled, based on the fact that our operational need would be to have it in service in case of wildfire as well.
Thanks for that answer. And on the second one, just hang on a second there, Counselor Ray. If there's other questions aside from any sort of liability, Chief DeVries?
I do have one statement as well. In the agreement, it will state that they have to put their decals over top of ours, so it doesn't identify as a fire truck when they're operating it. And it does say they can't use the emergency lighting when driving, but outside of that, I'm not sure if I'm 100% qualified to answer and your question on the specific liability pieces.
Okay, thanks, Chief. And everybody else, you just give me a few seconds here. Mr. Dewar.
Yes, so a proposed or a potential amendment to the motion could be the initial motion with provided that the town does not have increased liability. And then we'll confirm that before it's ever went out.
Okay, Counselor Ray.
I'll move the amendment as stated by Mr. Dewar. I was already thinking about that, actually.
Okay. A seconder for the amendment, please. Counselor Patterson. Okay, to the amendment, any discussion? Going to call a vote, all in favor? Any opposed? So then the motion, the new motion, which includes the amended language. Anyone need to have that read? Are we good? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Ms. McKinley, you're good with that? Okay. Okay, thanks. Just a couple little curveballs. Just got to be some curveballs. Okay. We are up to municipal markers. Any questions or comments for staff? I'm just going to say thanks for the work. I had a pretty brief look at these and noticed the thing, I guess, because it appeals to me, I did notice the sort of the work of the communications department, which is really unfair to the rest of you because I just didn't look at that part. So I will, and I'll send you emails. But it's just good to see, again, that information getting out. Okay. Bylaws, we got some bylaws. So bylaw 1964 for adoption. This is the regulating the operation of mobile vendors and mobile residents with definitions. And it's just motion to adopt, please. Move adoption. Counselor Patterson, Counselor Ray. Discussion. All in favor? And any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, bylaw 1970, business bylaw, excuse me, business license bylaw for adoption. Counselor Raven. Counselor Leonard. Discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. 16.3, suddenly I feel it,
Sorry, worship, this is a prior amendment.
right, okay,
Um,
we're good with this one. Seeing fees and charges after doing all the changes to 16s was making me nervous. Okay. Bylaw 1971, fees and charges amendment for adoption, please. Motion to adopt, Counselor Raven, Counselor Elliott. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And 16.4, bylaw 1975, zoning for adoption. Counselor Patterson, Counselor Elliott. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. 16.5 is bylaw 1976, bylaw notice enforcement bylaw for adoption. Counselor Patterson, Counselor Raven. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay. Now we're up to the changes. So the new 16.6 is the old 16.8, and it is the bylaw number 1986, Town of Smithers Water Regulation, with the report from Mr. Smith, who is with us, and this is first, second, and third reading. So let's get first reading done. Motion for first, Counselor Ray, Counselor Raven. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's it. Let's get second on the floor. Counselor Raven, Counselor Ray. Discussion. Here's the moment. Counselor Ray.
Yeah, so the reason I was thinking, I'll just tell my thinking and I'll ask the question. So I'm just thinking we're introducing a fee for applying to use the fire hydrant. But I was wondering if any staff could answer approximately how much water is somebody using when they're using our fire hydrants? Because it's, businesses are metered, others pay flat fees. If it's a lot of water or even a significant amount of water, I'm wondering if we should be charging a fee to use the water from the from the fire hydrants.
Thanks, Counselor Ray. I'm going to pass it to Mr. Lawrence, but I thought I'd just add to that, is what is it being used for when people take the water from the hydrants? Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. And to answer Councillor Ray's question, the not including a fee on the use of the hydrant for now is meant as a administrative tool for us for the fee, the application fee, and not necessarily the rate for water usage, as currently we don't see a lot of water usage from the fire hydrants. We see local contractors using them, but the reason here is to maintain some of the control over the utilization of the hydrant and make sure it's done in a safe and proper manner where it doesn't affect our water distribution system. Also, with the connection types, there's a need for backflow preventers and devices like that. And we're not properly situated right now to install something that would be able to charge on a metered basis. We'd have to have a special connection type that was metered, and then we'd have to have another means of enforcing that method of metering. So the logistics involved right now would be challenging. In the future, if we were looking for something like that, a metering station would be, and no hydrant use would be the way to go.
Sorry, what are people taking the water for from the hydrants?
Typically for like aggregate application or like road use and road building.
Notice I feel
Another,
no brighter when you say that, like to put dust control? Like what are you doing with aggregate application?
Typically, if you're recrushing a road or using gravel, then you also need to mix water in there. Yeah. Another thing is with the application process, then we can filter which types of users are accessing the hydrant as well. So if we see major bulk users, like for industrial purposes to go to mining camps, then we would have now a mechanism to deny that.
Thanks, Mr. Lawrence. Any other questions? Okay. Second readings on the floor. I'm gonna call a vote. Or Councillor Ray, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I think this is a good step forward and just knowing, you know, if we started charging the people that are building our roads for the water, it just costs more to build the roads. So I just not knowing that was why I brought it up. So I appreciate the answer. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ray. Thanks, Mr. Lawrence. Second reading, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And third reading, please. Councillor Ray? Councillor Elliott? Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay. Now I think I am at the former 16.6, which is 16.7. Fees and charges amendment bylaw. We have the report from Mr. George, and let's do first reading. First reading, motion to do first reading, please. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Raven, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. A motion for second reading, please. Councillor Raven, thank you. Councillor Patterson. Okay, questions, comments? Councillor Ray.
Sorry, I won't bring this up again if it doesn't go anywhere, but I'm just still concerned about the loss of the revenue from the showers. Given what we got at our budget presentation, that we're looking at potentially $40,000 more. I'm just wondering if we should be recovering all the money that we can. The only thing that might change my mind about that is just whether it makes it that much less onerous on whoever's going to run the campground, and then therefore maybe it's a wash in the fees. That would be fine. No pun intended on the wash there.
Mr. Dewar, and then I see you, Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, we can have that discussion at the staff level, and when we bring it back for third reading, we can bring that consideration and see if it's feasible or not.
Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. I was looking over the fees and most of them made sense to me and seemed reasonable, but the only one that struck me when I was going over the list was how little it costs to use Beauville Square. I don't know if other councillors feel the same way, but $6.59 for a half day. $13 for a whole day, just but I don't know if other.
Councillor Buchanan, I think we got that. I'm just going to let you know you were breaking up a little bit. Mr. George?
Sure. Thank you, Worship. Through to Councillor Buchanan. The fees there, they are a 3% increase as to what was in the fees and charges. If council wishes to increase those, that's something similar to what our CAO brought forward, that we can look at those prior to third reading.
Councillor Buchanan, I'm not sure if you wanted to ask anything as a follow-up, and we'll see how your connection is going. But you're muted.
There may be no one else on council who feels the same way as me, but it just seems like a really small amount to use a facility for half a day or for a full day. But if nobody else agrees, I'm fine with that. I just felt like I had to raise it.
I think we've got some other hands here and I have one comment, but I don't see whose hand came up first over here. Counselor Wright, go ahead, and then Counselor Patterson.
I just, if memory serves me correctly, part of the reason the fee is so low for Beauville Square is that given some of the problems that we've had with loitering, et cetera, at Beauville Square, and I may be wrong about this, but I believe part of the rationale for such a low fee was to get people using the square and to help turn maybe the perception around of Beauville Square as a place where you really don't want to go because you might get yelled at or whatever, to a vibrant public space. So I believe that was the initial thought there.
Counselor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just to respond to Counselor Buikema, I agree that it's low and I would support us revisiting that. Thank you.
Counselor Raven.
So while it might be affordable to rent the actual square, if someone's putting on an event, then they have insurance, then they're paying potentially for musicians. So it's not like it's the total fee. And I do like how affordable it is because it makes it more accessible for a lot of user groups. We know how hard it is for people to get space sometimes. So I would actually support leaving the fees where they are, just because it would brighten it up, make it more vibrant and more accessible for the entire community.
Thanks, Counselor Raven. Any other comments or questions? Counselor Ray.
Just while I'm thinking of it, because we are kind of trying to apply a cost recovery lens to things, does staff feel that this, I mean, obviously it wouldn't pay for everything, but and kind of an over and above cleanup, right? Because I know staff's already cleaning up Beauville Square.
I would say it wouldn't protect, I guess, the asset from an asset management perspective in terms of bringing in revenues to replace that asset when it is going to be at that point in time in its life cycle. I would refer to the Director of Operations about the costs associated with cleanups following events.
Mr. Lawrence.
Through the mayor to Councillor Ray, typically when we have an event scheduled at Beauville Square, we send a couple individuals from the operations team to do a cleanup and have everything prepped for an event. So looking at the current cost that's charged versus the dollars associated with staff for up to 2 hours with a vehicle and equipment, then we're heavily subsidizing that.
Mr. George and then Counselor Leonard.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would add as well that there has been increased costs for the town hosting events at Beauville Square for pre-cleanups as well of either community services staff or operations staff to ensure that the area at Beauville Square is safe for events prior to those events taking place. So I would note that. There may be a policy or a particular item regarding this lower rate for Beauville Square. So that's something that that staff would want to look into and bring back for more info.
Thanks, Mr. George. Counselor Leonard.
I'd just like to say that I do support staff looking into these rates. They are low, in my opinion. And so thank you, Councillor Buikema, for catching that. And I just want to draw everyone's attention to the little bullet down at the bottom talking about commercial use applying to mobile vendors who obtain approvals. So I'm not sure exactly what that's saying, if that's an added cost to them, or because didn't we just approve costs for mobile vendors? Anyway, that's just something maybe staff should also look into.
Thanks, Counselor Leonard. Counselor Buikema.
Thanks, Mayor Attrell. Yeah, I would really appreciate too if staff was to bring us more information. Thank you.
Counselor Ray, and then I'm going to hop in.
I think actually Counselor Leonard hit on it, and I think it triggered a memory. I'm sure staff's going to look at, but I believe actually now this commercial rate was meant to kind of make up for them hooking up to the electricity. So then it is actually a little more in line with what they might use, although it still might be a little short. But then that means I don't see any other fees for Beauville Square at all. So we're essentially letting people use it for free for the same reason that I thought we were charging low for, so.
Well,
I'll just throw in, you know, I like the idea of keeping the fee maybe lower to entice people to use it and rent it, as Councillor Raven sort of suggested. But I'm hugely in favor of covering costs that our staff incurs getting it prepped and cleaning it up.
Thanks, Counselor Leonard. This is just my memory, so it could be flawed. But I think one of the challenges that we faced at Beauville Square, and it was, I think by intent, it was around when Beauville Square was approved. So was Counselor Ray. You know, it was built in a way that doesn't easily allow it to become a private space. And so it is one of the challenges and one of the gifts of the space is that it is a public use. It was part of the notion when it was developed is it would be a free public space, or it would have had to have been built differently where you could actually gate it. And there have been on a couple of occasions, I can actually only remember one, but there might have been more than one where people brought in fencing in order to make a private space out of it. And that's different than the way it normally is. So it was created with intent to be a free public gathering space. So it makes it difficult to make it different than that, just because it doesn't have the fencing. So I think the reference to charging for power, and, you know, I've been a part of events, so the town has held big events there as well, where people come in and they pay fees to be a part of the event. So if you're bringing in food vendors or other entities, they pay to support the event. I don't know as well, Mr. Lawrence might know, if someone were to use a space or a portion of Heritage Park for a public event, how is that, I mean, I appreciate Beauville Square is different in what it requires for maintenance because it's downtown, but is it treated, like would another space be treated differently if someone wanted to host, I don't know, we had a music festival at Heritage Park once when they couldn't use the other place, like are the sites treated dramatically differently when there's going to be a public event?
To answer your question, Mayor Attrell, it would depend on the space itself and the time in question. So we try to achieve as high a level of service as possible. So any outdoor space that we would have, if we knew there was a booking for an outdoor event, we would make sure that that space was ready to go for any event organizer. So it would depend on the timing. If we noticed a large amount of garbage or like paraphernalia, let's say, then we would make sure that that was all removed.
It might not be a good example, but when we have like the trade expo and a lot of stuff goes into the outdoor space at Heritage Park. How would that be treated? I guess I'm thinking about what Councillor Leonard said and sort of some sort of cost recovery. Do we have a way of recovering those costs at other places? Is it built into the fees and charges bylaw, or is it a part of the service that we provide generally to host events?
That would likely be the cost of what our current maintenance is. We don't have a model like that in our fees and charges to charge back.
Okay, thanks for that. I think I'm actually okay with that. You know, we'll see there's different perspectives being placed here, but I guess we charge for service a couple of ways through general taxation, and part of the service we provide are parks and trails. And, you know, we don't charge someone specifically for walking on the perimeter trail. It costs us money. Those park services are expensive, but they're part of what makes it a cool place to be. So I don't know how you'd actually figure it out. And so I'm personally happy if we don't. I think we've heard different questions from different counselors on just trying to make sure things make sense. And Mr. Dewar has been writing things down. So Mr. Dewar.
Yeah, so I guess we could either look for this through a council resolution or else just through staff or the council feedback from this bylaw reading. But basically, we could bring back some options for fee structures. Prior to third reading, staff bring back options for Bullville Square rental fee structures in fees and charges bylaw 1984.
Councillor Ray.
Yeah, just before moving anything like that, I'm pretty sure was meant for the electricity and your point about a park, like Beauville Square was a gift to the community. And I think I'm okay with, because really almost everything that happens there is a community event. It's not a big concert by a band or anything like that. It's a community event, and like you said, it's kind of like a park. So and it would make it a little more onerous, as you already have to get insurance and everything. I can't imagine, say, Pride is what springs to mind, something big there, for them to have to also pay to rent the square. I think you're right on the right track there, that it is really just, it's a park. But I did support, if a commercial user is going to use that space, they're getting to use the space for whatever, but that's just a little bit of a fee recovery on electricity. Staff may decide that it's not even worth charging that for the staff time, like for $6. Maybe it's just better to not, but that would be, to me, that would be something that staff could decide.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Leonard.
Sorry, I'll just point out that non-exclusive or exclusive use, I guess, non-exclusive use of park space is $21 an hour, $22 an hour. So, I mean, it's not a stretch to sort of bring Beauville Square up to that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Leonard. I wonder if council is comfortable just leaving this with staff. Yeah, I guess some considerations that we've heard are wanting to be reasonable in terms of return to the town, like if there's a lot of cost. Also being reasonable to the public for access to park space. And then one of you just mentioned it, like there might be a point at which asking to delve into this too deep is going to cost more than even if we doubled the electricity rates at Beauville Square. So I think I'm content leaving this with staff. And if something makes sense after this conversation, bring it back to us with third reading. And if when you go through it, you go like, actually, this is the best, this is what we think is best, then I'm prepared to hear that too. Does that work rather than a specific motion? Okay. All right. Anything else? Mr. George.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment under section 6 for grass fields fees. When we're talking about cost recovery, there was a question about the process for that, looking at Heritage Park. So some of the cost recovery of that would be captured in those fees there as well. So when we're looking at cost recovery for on the fields and the parking lot, it would be captured through section 6 there.
Okay, thanks. I'm good with that. I mean, I do think some of the costs are, some of the services that we have when they're like green spaces and unfenced spaces, I think there's a general sense that people ought to be able to just go and use them. Okay. I think we were at second reading. And I think we're going to vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Okay. I don't know where we are. So we're at the old 16.7, which was now 16.8, and that is report from Mr. Smith, and that's bylaw 1985. And dealing with stuff on the roads. So first reading, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Raven, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, second reading, please. Councillor Ray. Counselor Raven, thank you. And discussion. Counselor Ray.
I just actually want to thank staff because it's made me mad for years that people just push their snow out after it's been plowed. And I thought it was against the bylaw, so it's good to see the bylaw getting updated.
Thanks, Counselor Ray. You maybe couldn't see them, but there was a lot of smiles down that side of the table. All right, any other comments? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And this one needs third reading. Third reading, please. Counselor Ray, Counselor Raven. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, now we're back on normal numbers, I think. Actually, we're just done bylaws. Okay. Correspondence for information, anything you want to pull out? Nobody wants. Okay,
I just want to make a comment on it that,
okay, actually, we'll just get the full, I have a couple too. So is there
Sure.
any, do you have any others?
yeah, that was the only one.
Counselor Bucama?
Thanks, Mayor Attrell. I just wanted to thank you for the letters you wrote relating to 18.1 and 18.2. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Counselor Bucama. Okay, back to Counselor Elliott.
I actually had the same comment. I hadn't read the letter previously that was sent, and I appreciated how it was worded, and it was actually a decent response from the ministry regarding the concerns that council had about forestry. And could I comment on 18.7?
Sure.
It's Pat Gallagher wrote a letter to Robbie Parmar about the surrounding forest in his neighborhood, but I think this is of concern to lots of people in Smithers, not just Pat here. I don't know if, I think we might have had some complication with private landowners around the surrounding areas and maybe Wet'suwet'en and land. I don't know if I just thought it was interesting, and lots of people are noticing that it is a concern for them around our community regarding forest fire risk and what can be done about it and what can we do to help.
Thanks, Counselor Elliott. Maybe just before I go to Counselor Patterson. Mr. Dewar, we sometimes get advice from staff or contractors just on what we're doing for, I've forgotten the term, like wildfire protection. There's a phrase for that I can't remember right now.
So we do have a contractor that we contract out the Fire Smart programming. That's done through our fire and rescue department.
And the chief just left, so we can't ask him anything. But Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to note that there was a large wildfire mitigation project completed in 2023 down near the Riverside Park, where a bunch of material was removed from the forest floor.
Yeah, I recall that. I was just thinking this might be one where a little follow-up just back to council. Just for, and it doesn't have to relate specific, like not only specifically to this area. Mr. Gallagher is talking about his neighborhood, but at some point when the next plan is in place, just to give us an update. Councilor Ray, you thinking that's not right?
No, I just, our wildfire mitigation has so far been on the interface. So we've moved into the perimeter trail and I don't know if I recall anybody discussing plans to do the actual urban forest as well.
Okay, thanks for that. We did do something, and maybe I'm mixing up how we did it. We did a bunch of land clearing, not brush clearing, maybe for other reasons. So we did stuff over near the highway, and we have done a little bit of brush clearing in that particular area before. So I don't really need an answer right now, but it's an interesting concern, and maybe I'll just pull it out and I can just ask you about it later, and if there's an easy answer for council.
Yeah, what I was thinking is staff can, in the coming months, bring back a presentation on just the status of wildfire protection and fire smart activities in the community.
Thanks for that, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a comment around 18.1. Just around the statement, third from the bottom paragraph where it says investments in the forest landscape planning will help build clarity and confidence around sustainable timber supply. Question if there'd be, how do I say this? I'm just wondering if it's appropriate for our communication specialist to promote a provincial initiative, because I think that I know the municipality has a lot better venues to engage with the community around things that are happening than sometimes the province has. So I was just thinking that it would be a really great opportunity to let our community know that that is happening. If we could post it on social media, I think that would be invaluable. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's just information that staff's heard. Okay. Councillor Ray.
Just a comment on that brush clearing. That was when there was problems with encampments there and the province cleared it because the main concern with the encampments at that time and that there was fire. And I wanted to pull out 18.2.
Go ahead.
While I recognize the conservation initiatives and why they take so long to decide whether folks on the upper river can fish, it just seems to me like the answer there also got to, they let people fish on the lower part of the river because they think there's enough fish. Then they figure out there isn't, and you can't fish on the upper part. I don't know if a follow-up would be needed to just point out that if they don't know, they shouldn't open the fishery at all, even in the lower part of the river. And then if there's enough fish, then they can open it up to everybody. Because the way it's done now, part of opening it up to the lower part of the river is exacerbating our problem.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. I heard a maybe and I didn't hear a direction. So, I mean, a couple of things in this letter stuck for me. One was the timeline, and that note I found a bit difficult too. Sort of the suggestion being perhaps the opportunity lies in another community. Anyway, I don't have to repeat what you said. Councillor Ray.
I'll move that council authorizes the mayor to reply to the letter discussing concerns about conservation, about the lower part of the river versus the upper part of the river. For clarity, you know what I'm talking about and you're writing the letter. Sorry.
Catch that, Ms. McKinley? Okay. Is there a seconder? Councillor Raven seconds. Okay, I'll do my best. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just seeking clarity, is the motion to respond directly to the Deputy Minister or as directed to follow up with the Director of Resource Management?
The motion didn't say, but I would suggest more blanket responses. I mean, council probably remembers, every year that there's an initiative by anglers in this community to try to get an opportunity to fish. So sometimes the people who were heading up departments or regions or ministries have changed, but this has been a multi-year effort to ensure early decision-making that enables businesses to make plans. That's one thing, and that's in the upper system. And for recreational anglers who support our local businesses and who live here to have an opportunity for the upper system, the convoluted thing about this species, I mean, we're talking about primarily steelhead, but different salmonids, is that they travel in different seasons, they're hitting different tributaries. It's just complex. So I guess that's a long way to say that I think it's a multi-agency issue. So this sadly covers both a federal and a provincial entity because it's Steelhead. The regulator, though, is the provincial branch. So the primary decision maker is the province, but because these are, I've one more time lost the word for the fish that go out to sea and spawn and come back. There's a word for those kind of fish. But anyway, I think multi-agency is a very long answer to your question.
Okay, so if I could just get clarity on, will it go to the director or will it go to the deputy minister? And the reason why I'm asking that is I actually work for this particular ministry, and I know that when you're advocating, sometimes it actually makes a lot more of a difference if you create strong relationships with the local representatives. For example, Mr. Skerrick has actually worked and lived in this region for quite some time. And I do find that when you engage directly with them, they have more opportunity sometimes to advocate with executive more frequently than we might have through letters or through UBCM. So I was just trying to get a sense of if we would also, I'm not opposed to voting in favor of the letter, but I also think that when we get these responses from the ministers, every single one encourages us to reach out to those individuals who are local. And I just, I really hope that we're taking them up on that, because it's not just about, it's about the long-term relationship building that can happen through those conversations. So that's why I was just seeking some clarity. Thank you.
So I think my intention would be to everyone who's on this list. And I have been invited in the past to participate on some of these calls and Zooms, including with Mr. Skerrick. So Councilor Ray.
Yeah, I would be expecting it to go to the minister. And then others could be CC'd. It came from the deputy minister because it was during interregnum, but us hounding staff isn't going to get things changed. Us hounding a minister may. And you know, I'm a staff member, very low, and sometimes those relationships, you're right, are good, but the change has to come from the top.
Okay, just so that I'm clear, I have the list that's here plus the minister. Okay. Did we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And any others? I feel like I have one. I'm just gonna flip through. Oh, I just wanted to draw attention to the heritage one, and I made some notes that the Heritage Registry is available for people. And Ms. Westby has appeared here before from the museum talking about the Heritage Register, and it's moving along. So I had a look at it. It's looking, it's cool. And there's also some family history workshops that are being done by our local museum. So, and you'll all know where to find that information at the museum website. Councillor Leonard.
On that note, they're having a draft review of their plan at the museum. There's 2 sessions on the 19th, which is next Wednesday.
Thanks for that. Okay, that was the only thing that I wanted to bring back. Any other last minute items? Okay, I think we're there. Thanks for joining us, Councillor Buikema. It was good to see you. And unless I've forgotten something, a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Raven, all in favor? Any opposed? And we're adjourned. Good night, everyone.